All right. So welcome, everyone. It's fantastic to see so many of you here. Unfortunately, we can't see you in person, but it's still nice to see you as participants. So this is the open day for the Intelligent Earth Center for Doctoral Training in AI for the Environment. My name is Philip Stier, and I'm the director of the CDT. But then speak on behalf of our whole leadership team, which is all listed below, lots of names. But I think it's much nicer to see actually faces to the names. So this is all of us, and with us, me in the room and the panel at the moment is also Tim, and Hannah will join us shortly. So this management team is basically representing the departments of the CDT. We're coordinating that everything goes well, and very important people on top of it are obviously Sophie Nixie, our program manager that many of you might email with at some point, and then also Tim Tang, our course director. But let's just get started, because you obviously have many questions you might want to get answered. So to give you a rough idea of the program today, I'll give an introduction to Intelligent Earth to start with. Then Tim will take over to give an overview of the training program, because it's obviously a center for doctoral training, and that's an important part of it. Hannah Christensen will also then talk you through a little bit how to apply. I should mention Hannah is also our EDI representative on the management. And then we will have a very extended question and answer session. And in a webinar, question and answer sessions work through the question and answer tool. So at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you would normally find a box that says Q&A. You can click on it. You can type your questions in. You can do this at any time during the session. And we'll try to answer as many as possible as we come to the end of it. We'll do Q&A not after individual presentations, but we'll do it after all of the presentations together, so that people can hear all the information first. And we will also try to answer some of the more concrete or personal questions directly in the chat. So we won't take them all sort of in verbal, but also try to answer as we go along. All right, so much for introduction, but you may wonder what this program is really about, and that's what the impression I want to give you now. So first of all, because you're here, you're probably not entirely surprised that we're facing quite a few existential environmental challenges at the moment on Earth. On the one hand, climate change, and what's shown here is just an extreme temperature event over the US. We have massive biodiversity loss, and you will have seen obviously much of this in the media, and it's an equally pressing issue. We have things like air pollution, and we have things like natural hazards and many other things that are going on. And all of this happening is at a time when AI and machine learning are really already transforming sciences in general. So this year you will have followed the Nobel Awards. AlphaFold won the Nobel Award in chemistry. The Nobel Prize in physics also went to AI and machine learning related discoveries. And then also we see already the transformation of very related environmental fields, weather predictions entirely transformed being by environmental sciences. This is not to say you will get a Nobel Prize as soon as you apply. You obviously have to do a PhD first, but it's an exciting time to do AI in science. It's also an exciting time to do environmental sciences in general. So we have fantastic new tools. So we have a new generation of climate models coming up, illustrated here. They simulate the Earth in really unprecedented detail. What's shown here is sort of the global aerosol cycles, so air pollution cycles and natural aerosols, together with clouds in a really kilometer scale climate model simulation, something we couldn't do just 5 years ago. So it's an exciting time to get into this field. Other bits that are happening is we have an unprecedented amount of really interesting observations. So these are images from our partner, actually Planet. It's a company that runs massive fleets of CubeSats. And these show the Earth in really, really high resolution, in fantastic detail. And these Earth observations produce so much data that we can't possibly analyze them still by hand. So again, another real driver for what we're doing. So why then Intelligent Earth? Well, we know there's a few existential environmental crises. There's key science questions unresolved. So it's a really interesting topic. We have vast and really complex multimodal data sets. So it's a very challenging problem. It's much more complex than many data sets that we find on the internet or so, because our data is not only big, but also complex. And we think we have really fantastic expertise here at Oxford, but in Oxford itself, but then also we have fantastic partners, which I'll come to in just a little bit. So what we want to do is we want to train a new generation of PhD students equipped to tackle some of these questions using AI, while advancing AI itself. Why do I say this? I say this because it's not just applying existing AI tools, but really to also understand and develop AI itself and to push the frontiers in both environmental sciences and AI. And we're really keen to do this in a positive and inclusive environment, and that will be important throughout the whole course. So the vision is, so it's an interdisciplinary PhD training program. We have roughly 2 entry streams, even though the boundaries are really blurred, so don't see it as too binary. So we have people coming from numerate environmental science backgrounds, so people who don't mind some maths and have some interest in environmental sciences. And we have people from broadly AI, machine learning, math, statistics, physics, engineering backgrounds, so some on the much more quantitative side who may not have had much exposure to any environmental questions. And that's something we bring in. And the program is structured around 4 closely connected themes. Again, these are not binary, there's not distinct. There are many transitions in between. So we look into climate, biodiversity, natural hazards, environmental solutions. And we have a real theme on core AI and machine learning research. And the reason for that is we really want to, we want to advance AI itself, and we want to do really interesting computer science questions in addition to environmental science questions. So it's not just an applied training. We have a fantastic set of partners. So across Oxford, we have 7 departments in the CDT. So it's physics, biology, computer science, earth sciences, engineering, statistics, and geography and the environment. And we have a fantastic and growing set of non-academic partners. And I won't list them all out here. You see many of the logos here. They're all also on our web pages. And these partners are really an integral part of what we're doing. And we're really very excited to bring them on board. And we have fantastic discussions with them already. So how does it look in practice? So the supervision in the CDT is always interdisciplinary. And that means it's for each PhD student. You'll be supervised from academics across Oxford and all the different departments. And there will always be a joint supervision between some broadly environmental expert and some broadly AI expert. And again, the lines are a bit blurred there, but they bring different expertise, and that's important, so that you learn from both sides and that we all talk together and learn as a community. You will also have a non-academic advisor from one of the partners, and they serve as a host for non-academic secondment as well. So we want students to go on secondments to partners out of academia, into industry, into fantastic research labs, space agencies and others, and see the world outside of academia. So we match students and supervisors in the first 2 terms of the training program. And what you might wonder now, which degree do you actually get and where do you actually sit in the long term? So in the first year, you will always be set with us. But then after year 2, you will go to the primary department where your main supervisor sits. And that also then determines the degree you get in the end. So with student-led program, we don't set fixed projects to do, and we just work through a list of things. And we will match students with supervisor based on their interest, and you will jointly develop projects with them. But we have also a few partner-led projects where partners really bring in an exciting idea, and we advertise them to students in the first terms of the program. We are lucky to offer over 20 fully funded studentships. They include stipend fees and a research and travel allowance, so they're really fully funded, and which we think is very important for various reasons, in particular also for access. I won't say much about the training program itself because Tim will give you a fantastic overview right after. So instead, I actually have the joy to tease a little bit with what already happened. We had the first cohort of students started just a few months ago. So they started in October, and we're having a great time. So this is our cohort of students on the left-hand side, just in the first training course. And this was a course that's shown here in BBC Panorama, a course on environmental data analysis. So we put a new course together where you really learn the details of analyzing complex environmental data sets. So this course didn't exist before, and we thought it was really necessary, and it was very useful. We then have various other courses. At the moment, we go through different foundations courses, and Tim will come back to that later. Just on the left-hand side, as you see, we deal with all sorts of models, not just machine learning models. So this is my colleague Miles Allen, a great climate scientist who is explaining the climate system with a simple analog model using effectively plumbing to represent the reservoirs of the climate system. On the right-hand side, you see our Partners Day. So partners joined us online and in person, and they discussed with students what they're interested in and how they want to interact with students. And then just today, actually, we changed very spontaneously the entire training program, and one of our partners, Trillium and FTL, come to Oxford and they run a sprint for the student cohort on civil resilience. So students are actively planning different approaches to civil resilience in a sprint at Oxford. And these are just pictures from this morning. Beyond just the doctoral training program, we really want to form a community. And part of the community is really to get us together across Oxford, but also externally. And so we have a fantastic seminar series that kicks off. We had fantastic seminars already. Another one, nice one tomorrow from Elon Price from DeepMind. And these will be in term time on Wednesdays, but they're also an integral part of the training for the students themselves. If you're interested, I put also here how to sign up for these seminar lists in the chat, because these are also external to interested people elsewhere. So very briefly, and again, Hannah will give a much more detailed introduction to that, but just what were we looking for? Why should you apply? So we really care about inclusivity and diversity and want to recruit candidates from a wide range of backgrounds. We don't care exactly where you come from, what you look like. We just want to have good students, and they can be from the UK and they can be worldwide. We really want to see a strong interest and motivations in the development and applications of AI for environmental science and solutions. So that's obviously a key driver, and we come back to that. As I said, we want to not only apply AI, but we also want to develop and understand it. So candidates should have strong quantitative skills and interests. So if you really absolutely don't like the idea of maths, then this program is just not, there's other fantastic programs, but we will dig into maths in this course because it's really underpinning much of what AI really is. And as I said already, we sort of have these broad entry streams, but they're blurry. So there's obviously variations all around. And you should have an interest in what we're doing. And these are sort of in these core themes, there's always some ambiguity at the edges, but broadly it's about AI for the environment, and that's what we really want to strive for. And I think I want to stop here already, and we'll take questions later on in the question and answer session. And I see already my colleagues luckily already have started to answer some of the questions in the Q&A box, which you can continue to do. But for now, I hand over to our fabulous course director, Tim.
Hi, Philip. Thanks a lot for introducing, and let's have a very quick look at what it is we're going on right now at Oxford for the IntelligentEarth CDT training. Let me try to do a very quick presentation. Can you see my slides? I think everything is going on well.
All good.
So, great. In terms of training courses for IntelligentEarth CDT, start is that it is completely different from all the courses like MSc or undergrad course you've taken before, because the aim is completely different. We aim to train you become independent researchers. That means we do not really want to tinker in a lot of equations in your head and make you pass all the examinations. But instead, we want to give you some knowledge to start with, as well as all the research skills and professional skills you really need to complete a DPhil at Oxford. And obviously, there will be more support on the career development, teaching skills, etc., for you to, if you want to further seek a job, either in industry or in academia. Here's a very brief overview of the first year training plan. So from the second year and third year, you'll become a full-time DPhil student, although there will be continuous support from us. But in the first year, we will offer you a quite intensive training plan to make sure that you have all the foundations for you to begin a interdisciplinary PhD project in both machine learning and environmental science. We start with computation skills in the first term, where we try to do standard software training so that you do know how to code it properly in a collaborative way. And Jasmine training is mostly a cloud computing training that we all run our labs on the supercomputers remotely, so that it's better way of incorporating large data sets that is common for environmental and earth science. And we also got the environmental data analysis course, which is shown in the BBC Panorama, which Philip just coming before. And this is really the course teach you how to do analysis data and importing very different types of data you're going to occur in your future research. We have a responsible AI course that teach you how to use AI properly with all the ethics, and you come up with a nice white book telling the guidelines of how to use machine learning in the entire CDT course. Well, there will be statistical interference course, which is really the foundation of the machine learning, and obviously the machine learning and deep learning foundation courses. This will teach you, give you a very brief overview of what's going on there. Apart from all these, we also have environmental science foundations, including the 4 themes here: the climate, the natural hazards, the biodiversity, as well as the environmental solutions. Well, there's really a lot of things to cover, but I think the most important thing is that really we want to aim for the interactive teaching. Means that you will not really sit in front of a lecture theater for the whole day. We will have labs with mini group projects. We'll have sprints, hackathons, Intelligent Earth seminars that just being mentioned before by Philip, as well as the professional development courses. The idea or the whole message we want to come across is that we want the first year training to be interesting, useful, and hands-on for your future research. And we will be able to do that because there's really no hard time limit like written exams that really needed for the first year training, because, well, not all the excellent researchers can be quantified and reflected in written exams. So that's the reason why we will be able to do these, and we will be able to do some very, very fun things. Like, for example, you play around with some very nice climate data and climate model in your course, in some of the labs, as well as we ask you to design and compete with each other for the best and award-winning offshore wind farm. So where to place these wind turbines so that there's minimal interaction between these two. So apart from the first term, which is mostly on the foundation training courses, the second term, we will try to help you dive into the machine learning world, because that is actually the tool you're going to use for 3 years of your DPhil at Oxford. And we have deep learning, computer vision, probabilistic learning, and time series and signal processing toward the second term. There will be more advanced courses offered throughout the entire 4 years of the program, where some of these can be optional. If that's super helpful and aligned with your project, please jump in. And if it's not, then we are happy for you to continue research. The third term, which you have a mini research project, means that you can try out yourself really to be a researcher, so that you will join the actual research group and doing some really nice research. And hopefully this will turn into your DPhil thesis toward the end. And obviously there will also be a lot of cohort activities in the Trinity term or the third term, where there will be annual hackathons as well as a course cohort conference there, where you will be able to present what you've achieved in your research project. There will be more training courses in the from year 2, 3, and 4, but yeah, and we were very excited to support you all the way through. I think that's toward the end. Thanks a lot, Philip. And if there's any questions, probably we will go during the Q&A section. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Tim. If you can unshare your screen, that's great. So that was a great overview. I think I just want to emphasize one bit of it here. Because we're so interdisciplinary, some students will have heard always some bits of the course. And the whole idea is to design a program that even if you already heard a lecture or some substantial background, for example, on climate, the course on climate is still interesting because you complement it with the machine learning side. So it's all about this excitement coming from two different angles. That's what we're trying to convey. So the next thing you might ask yourself is obviously how would you apply to a program like this? And we want to really give you some good guidance for this. So my colleague Hannah will join us now and give you a good overview of this because it's really important, and I think it will answer already many questions you also put in the chat. So I think over to you, Hannah. You will hopefully answer more questions than anyone else in one go.
Great, thanks, Philip. Let me share my screen here. Right. Are you seeing the presenter format or the correct format? Perfect. Good. Okay. Great. So welcome. Thank you everyone for coming today. And I hope that this presentation will be will answer some of the questions that you might have. Let me move to a laser pointer. Great. So how to apply? You've decided that you're interested in Intelligent Earth. How do you go about applying? So firstly, all the information that I give to you today is available on our admissions page on the centralized Oxford admissions website. So if you navigate yourself to ox.ac.uk admissions, you can search for the Intelligent Earth CDT course instead of having to write down this long address. And that will take you to this website here. The instructions that you need on how to apply then is following this how to apply button here. Now, before you launch into applying, there's going to be a few things that you need to, a few bits of data that you need to collect. So firstly, you need to work out your application fee status. Secondly, you might want to consider what potential supervisors are available at Oxford. You might want to look through the online form to prepare you for what information you're going to be able to put in on the online form and what you should put elsewhere. Then, having looked through the online form, I recommend you prepare your documents. I'll talk about this again. Contact your referees. And finally, I'm going to make a few comments about funding. So firstly, the application fee. So the University of Oxford sets a £20 per course application fee that you have to pay to apply to graduate courses. However, there are fee waivers available for certain categories of applicants. And so before you apply, I ask you to please check your eligibility so that on the application form you can indicate if you think you are eligible for the fee waiver, because it won't automatically be applied otherwise. So you need to check your own eligibility. And fee waivers are available for applicants from low-income countries, for refugees and displaced persons, for UK applicants from low-income backgrounds, and also for applicants who have applied for one of our graduate access programs in the last 2 years. And so the next comments are only relevant for those of you who have to pay the fee. So if you have paid your £20 per course application fee for Intelligent Earth, then what this also gets you is a free application to up to 2 other related courses if you're also applying this year. And there's a list of eligible courses on the website. But in general, if you're applying to Intelligent Earth, then the kind of secondary courses you might be interested in applying to, so for example, a PhD in Earth Sciences or a PhD in Computer Science or so on, these are on the list of eligible courses. And what you need to do then is to request a fee waiver code when you pay the fee the first time that you can use for subsequent applications. But again, all the details are available on the web page I've shown you. So second thing that you could think about are supervisors. So we are fortunate to have over 80 supervisors committed to supporting Intelligent Earth from across 7 different departments here at Oxford. The departments of physics, engineering, biology, computer science, earth sciences, geography, and statistics. Now, you don't need to contact a supervisor prior to applying to Intelligent Earth. However, it could be good for you to check our supervisor lists to see if you can identify supervisors who have interests that are compatible with your own, and to have a few ideas for different groups you might be interested in joining here in Oxford. So this is primarily a data collection exercise for you. If you have a very particular area that you're interested in working in, and we do not have a supervisor here in Oxford, then we won't really be able to support you in doing a PhD in that specific area. So, so please do have a look at the available supervisors. And it is, you are allowed, you can reach out to specific supervisors if you want to discuss projects. This is particularly could be useful if you have a very specific supervisor who you really want to work with. And it might be useful for you to see if they will be accepting students next year. But at this application stage, there is no obligation set up on either side. So then if you're accepted into the program, you wouldn't be obliged to work with that supervisor. And similarly, they would have no obligation to work with you if you were accepted either. So it's really a data collection exercise to see if there's a good match there. And that's because, as Tim and Philip have already explained, on arriving at Oxford over the first 2 terms, you Intelligent Earth students spend time talking with different supervisors and crafting a project of mutual interest that's ideal for what they want to work on. So it's only at that point that you really choose a supervisor. Okay, so the next thing to do is to prepare your documents. So firstly, you might think you need a CV to apply, but actually that's not the case. So at no point in the application procedure do you upload a CV. Instead, all of the information that you would usually find on a CV is entered into the application form. So it's useful to have that information available, but you don't need it formatted into a CV. The main document that you need to prepare and upload to the system is your statement of purpose. And so here I've taken a snapshot of what this statement of purpose, the instructions for this statement of purpose from our application website. And so we can read here what it says you need to write. So your statement should be written in English, and it should focus on your motivation, your research interests, and your career ambitions. So I want to emphasize that this is not a research proposal, because again, over the first 2 terms, when we get here to Oxford, students work on crafting a research proposal in collaboration with supervisors. So we're not looking for a research proposal at this stage. Instead, we are looking for this document which outlines your your background and your motivation for why you're applying to the Intelligent Earth CDT. So, and in particular, we're looking for a few different things. So firstly, we're really looking for programmatic fit. Intelligent Earth is an interdisciplinary program, and we are looking then for candidates who have interdisciplinary interests. So we're not necessarily looking for candidates who are using this as a way to get in to do a very narrow environmental science or a very narrow computer science PhD. We're looking for students who would embrace the interdisciplinary nature of the program. So we're looking for statements of purpose which emphasize that you would fit well in this interdisciplinary environment. We're looking for evidence of, building from this point, we're looking for evidence of your background knowledge, that you have prior experience of relevance in this interdisciplinary landscape. We're looking for evidence of your academic and your research potential, perhaps by outlining research projects that you've been involved in. And again, this can relate back to your background knowledge and the interdisciplinary nature of the program. We're also looking, as it says here, for your career ambition. So why would the Intelligent Earth CDT be the ideal step for you en route to wherever you want to be in 4 years' time? And finally, you can indicate in this statement of purpose if there's any supervisors that you particularly want to work with. But again, there is really no commitment on either side at this stage. And so you don't have to mention any supervisors at all. So a few tips on how to approach this statement of purpose. So the first tip I would make is look through the whole application form that you have to fill in. And work out what information is already going to be put on the form and what information, therefore, you're going to need to put into the statement of purpose. You don't need to duplicate information because we will read the whole application package at the same time. So the next comment to make is that this statement of purpose is really your personal statement of purpose. And so please do try and make it personal and also make it specific as opposed to very general. So, for example, why are you interested in AI? Why is the Intelligent Earth doctoral training program right for you? So an example from a related area where we deal with a lot of applications is, for example, undergraduate physics admissions. And so we read many statements from candidates, and many candidates say some kind of generic statement like, I want to study physics so I can understand the world around me. And that's very fine. But it's not actually as informative or as vivid as a statement that says something like, I've been interested in physics since my 6th grade teacher explained to me how a rainbow forms. I went away and read up on so-and-so. You know, there's this idea that you have a much more clear and evidenced statement of why someone and how someone became interested in a particular area. And so similarly, then why is this course ideal for you, given the skill set you have currently and the skill set you would like to have in a few years' time? Statement of purpose tips 2. So please do highlight previous knowledge that you have. And this is particularly important if you need to prove to us that you have the math skills that are necessary to complete the course. And that's because this is a very quantitative course. And so we have this requirement in the qualifications section that say that you should have math skills equivalent to UK A level or to have done maths as part of your course. So if you're not coming from an undergraduate degree program, which is clearly got this numeracy in it, so you're not coming from maths or computer science or physics or so on, but are coming from a different course that might be slightly more applied, please do evidence in your statement of purpose the kind of maths courses that you've done so that we can understand that you fulfill this requirement. So this, you should read this highlighted statement here. So applicants whose previous degree was not explicitly quantitatively based should be able to demonstrate the ability to learn the necessary skills required for successful completion of the course. Purpose tips 3, please try and make your statement of purpose evidence-based. So don't typically make statements without backing them up. So let's compare these two statements. You know, I'm a fast learner versus I'm a fast learner. For example, my master's project involved using this Fortran code, and I went from a novice to completely confidently editing the code within 2 weeks. So the second example gives us evidence so that we can see why you're a fast learner. And you can also highlight examples from your CV at this point as evidence. So your CV might already contain information about different courses you've done, but this is an opportunity to pick out some of these courses that are most of relevance. So, for example, if you've taken extra courses on environmental science, which weren't routinely offered within a program that was more computer science based. And this could be a way of building up a background of evidence that you're really interested in, say, the interdisciplinary nature of the course. And this is also an opportunity for you to give more detail and examples beyond what you have on your CV. So, for example, what might be on your on this kind of the CV part of the form is very factual statements about what research project you were interested in. But from the title of a project, it can be very hard for the assessor to understand exactly what you've done. What techniques did you use? What was the aim of the project? What kind of research aptitudes did you demonstrate here? You know, did you suggest new directions or lines of research which would demonstrate your independence? And then in terms of your specific future goals, it's helpful for us to understand what kind of themes and topics you might be interested in working on, as opposed to specific projects. And again, this is to help us understand if your research interests fit within the landscape of supervisors available at Oxford, as opposed to being specifically tied to a particular supervisor at this stage. So the final thing that you want to work out is who your referees are going to be. And we require 3 referees. Now, academic references are preferred, but we appreciate that people applying to the Intelligent Earth programme actually come from quite a wide range of backgrounds, and some people have been in industry for a while. And so we can accept up to 2 professional references, as long as they're then from areas of with relevant work experience. And I do urge you to contact your referees prior to submission so that they have accepted, they're prepared to write you a reference in the timescale that it's required. And the final comment was then on funding. So this is a fully funded programme, and you will automatically be considered for a funded place. There are some questions on the application form, which we'll look at in a minute, which will help us determine your eligibility for additional funding options outside of the core money from within Intelligent Earth. And you will automatically be considered for all of these funding options which are available, including the Academic Futures Scholarships and the Africa Oxford initiatives, which are different cross-university programmes which are working to increase the diversity of students at Oxford. Okay, great. Let's talk through the form briefly. So, so you'll see when you set yourself up as on the form, you'll see many different tabs here, and each tab has got different questions you have to fill out, and you have to complete all of these tabs before you can submit your form. And I should emphasize that this is a standardized form across all graduate programs at Oxford. So please don't let it confuse you if the form is asking for something and we have said on the web page that we want something subtly different, and it's because the form is very standardized. But let's talk through it now. So first, it says here on the course details, it says proposed field and title of research project. So you're not applying for a particular research project, you're applying to the CDT as a whole. But the thing that is useful for us is to know which theme or themes you are most interested in. And so please put that theme in here. And the next line says proposed supervisor, if applicable. As we've emphasized, this is not applicable because you find your supervisor over the first 2 terms. So please leave this box blank. Great, so then you enter some contact details, and then we come to a page which is about you. So this page is collecting information about you, which will be used to help determine your fee status and if you are eligible for certain scholarships at Oxford. And that is the only way in which this protected information is going to be used about you in the assessment. It's just to collect your fee status and to work out if you're eligible for these scholarships. You fill in the details of your referees, and then we move on to the qualifications and experience tab. And this is the biggest tab on this form. And here you fill out all the details that you would normally find on your CV. And you also have the option to detail any extenuating circumstances that will impact this application. So, for example, things that have happened which have affected your academic career to date. You can input these onto the form. And finally, we have the supporting documents page. So on this page, you're going to need to upload your academic transcripts and also your statement of purpose, your 500-word statement of purpose. And please, I emphasize again, do not upload a separate CV. We should have all that information from earlier in the form. And do not upload a research proposal either. And so that then brings us to the end of how to apply. And so maybe I can take questions, but I can also take these through the chat.
Fantastic, Hannah. That's so helpful. I'll consult you next time I apply for a job, I think. This is very, very clear. So what we do in the following, we have an extended question and answer session. We've done much of this in the chat already, but we left also questions open because it would be helpful to take them, I think, for everyone on to avoid any confusion and to reiterate some point. I'll start with one where there is some confusion and I see where it's coming from, because while we previously in the last admissions round asked referees to anonymize the letters, this has not proven practical because they're often not very good at it. And we had a lot of confusion, and it involved a lot of work with manually redacting this, and it was virtually impossible to handle. This should have been entirely removed from our web pages. I just saw from one comment from Frank Wu that we missed to remove this in one of the sub-menus in the FAQs. So I apologize for this. We will delete this very shortly, but no, references are no longer asked to anonymize the letters, simply because, not because it's not the right intention to do it, but it was difficult to handle, and it also, there was limited evidence that it improves and makes it fairer for us. So just to answer this already, because I think there was some conclusion about that. Great. Hannah, Tim, do you want to pick up and pick others? I'm very happy to keep going, but we can just take turns in answering the questions.
I haven't had a chance to read the latest questions, so maybe if Tim goes, and then I can jump in.
So
there was,
can go one more, and then I can pick up.
So then there was a question from Harry, and there was about CVs, because yes, we don't, and Hannah, you can probably take this better than I, but we don't ask people no longer to upload an explicit PDF of a CV, but the CV is part of the form. When you answer the question, you implicitly generate a CV. And again, the reason for this is purely fairness. We don't want to assess you by your formatting skills, or if you have the best designed CV. We want to go by what you write down. So there's no separate CV, but it is part of the forms you completed. I think there was some confusion about that.
Right. Maybe I will take the one on how about on the other side of the coin. If you come from a physics or climate background, but not work on the computer science project before, that's absolutely fine. We've actually have a few students from the science background or the physics and climate background. But the idea is that we do look forward and to see how excited and how you would like to play around with machine learning. So if you really want to use machine learning in your default thesis, and we do provide lots of training for that, please, that's absolutely fine. And you are more than welcome to apply.
Yeah, there was a slightly related question which I might just tag onto that, and that is sort of, what about if I, after the training, want to go to something pure AI? And I think there will be always discussions we would have with students. We tailor the program individually to each student, but broadly we want to, this is a program around AI for the environment. If you have your interests are purely in foundational AI without sort of this link, then there's other fantastic programs out. But I should though emphasize that we have this dedicated core AI theme, and this is really for people who have a strong theoretical interest, a strong AI interest, who want to go really deep. And it's quite easy often to then bring some of these interests and combine them with some applications or data sets from the environment, so that we can all learn from it to tackle some of these questions. Say, if you're interested in large language models, you might also be interested in foundation models for geospatial data and other things. So I think these opportunities exist.
Right. We also have a few questions from Tom Amy on the environmental governance, or we really want to look for applicants from the numerical side. So like quantitative analysis on the environmental science. We will focus less on the social science side, unfortunately. So yes, it's probably more hard science focused instead of like a policy focused. So there will be more fantastic scheme that provides more training as well as more like support throughout instead of us, because we're trying to tackle, as you can see from the training program, from the very first we go with coding and the numerical analysis, etc. So there might be better choice out there.
Yeah, I should say though, if people are in Oxford or get admitted into other related programs, we are very happy to make them part of the community, but it wouldn't be sort of part of the same fully training program, and it would be sort of slightly aligned with the program. But we're very happy to do that because there's obviously fantastic applications of AI in all the other areas as well.
I can see a few questions about timelines after application. So there's a couple of questions about are there going to be interviews? Are applications considered on a rolling basis and so on? And so no, applications are not considered on a rolling basis. So after our deadline in January, we collect together all of the applications. We go through an assessment and we will shortlist some candidates for interview, and there will be an interview stage. And so at that point, you will hear if you've been shortlisted for interview or not. And then we will go through the interviews in a fairly short window, and we'll send out the decisions in the kind of spring, March, April type time frame.
Yes, that's an important point. And we will also publish the format of the interview in due course for everyone. So this will be openly accessible to everyone. We obviously won't tell you necessarily all the details what we're going to ask, but you should be fairly aware what to expect, again, which makes it much easier and should take the stress off.
Right.
There's a question on the application fee. I'll just take really quick. We never really liked the application fee. It's still there, but luckily it's gone down across Oxford for these doctoral programs from £75 to £20. And also please note that you can, with paying the fee once, you can apply to several related programs that are also listed. So you can apply to what used to be the equivalent of our NERC DTP, so which is sort of a doctoral training partnership, which will have a slightly different name next cycle because it's been renewed in a different umbrella. But you can apply there with paying the fee only once. So apologies, it's still there, but it's much more manageable, luckily.
I'm seeing also a question from Joel. Sorry if I didn't pronounce your name right. On the finding difficulties in finding academic reference. We asked for the professional reference. That means that it does not really need to be coming from like academia or academic. If you have gone to work and probably have less link back to the academia, that's absolutely fine. And anyone that can highlight your skills, highlight your competence and your passion about machine learning probably would be the ideal person who you really want to reach out for.
That's a question about the funding, and I think that's a very valid point. So about 20 places being fully funded. Yes, we offer only fully funded places. We don't generally have we fill all places that we can fully fund with our applicants, and that typically is also the cohort size that we can maintain. So we don't expect anyone to have to pay for the course, because that was a question.
And I think a related question is if accepted, at what point will you be aware if you will also receive funding? We indicate that you have been accepted with funding, and that's the way that we would offer a place on the course.
Yes, and the funding just it would start right away as you start the training, just to be sure.
Yeah.
Offers conditional. There can be conditions set on the degree outcomes. Yes, if people have predicted grades, you still have to meet the required grades. And yes, so they are occasionally conditional. Quite often people have already everything in place. So there's a lot of questions. We're still trying. I think we can go maybe for five to maximum 10 more minutes or so and answer these, because it is helpful.
Yeah, so for the language assessment, Hannah said she wants to answer that. Then I will probably leave to you, Hannah.
Oh no, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, so we basically take the university regulation on the language assessment, and it should be there, and like we will make the conditional offer if you haven't like got the IELTS or TOEFL score before at the stage of the application, but absolutely fine. You can obtain that before then we can make you a full like unconditional offer afterwards.
Yeah, then I'll take a couple of questions that are slightly linked, and they are basically, could you do the PhD while being employed in industry? It's a full-time program, so you will be very busy. So you wouldn't be able to do this while being employed in industry. It's very challenging for us to arrange part-time programs, also because the overall CDT program after 5 years we have 5 intakes. And we couldn't necessarily extend the program then to let the last part-time students finish. Slightly related, there's a question, could you continue to work with your current employer for a secondment? This could potentially be possible, but it's something we can't guarantee at this point, and partly because we will offer you so many exciting opportunities that you might change your mind. So we wouldn't want you to commit to anything at that point, because you can see other topics that you might find equally or even more interesting. So, but those are then subject to individual discussions. If people are admitted in the program, we will always work with you to make it as good as possible for you. But the overall theme needs to be still matching with our aspirations. So if there's a question, if someone has their own funding, can they still apply? So in general, this is in principle, you can always apply, but we don't distinguish based on funding or not. We make these offers purely based on merit. But it is not, sometimes when people have external scholarships, it may be possible to align them with the program, but we would just have to look really at the situation, how this works. It wouldn't be considered for the funded places, but we'll try to align this. So if you have such a situation, I suggest contact us and we'll try to work with you and explain the situation.
We also have a question from Andy on it is possible to do internships during program. The very short answer is yes. We trying to offer a 3-month internship that can align with our partners, and you can spend a few time, but that will also be counted within your program, so that you basically get out to your partner site and work with them for around 3 months, although everything is still under, like, we will see how that goes really, but basically we will try to discuss this on one-to-one case basis.
I can see a couple of questions about references. So there's one, Joel says he's not sure he can find an academic reference. Is this fully required, or would a few types of work references work? So Oxford requires at least one academic reference, and it can be a very factual reference if this is something that you can find. If you really cannot find one academic reference, I recommend you send us an email and we'll try and work out if what you have is acceptable. But in general, you do need one academic reference, but then we are happy to accept 2 non-academic or 2 work-related references. Aaron has asked then, how many professional references is preferred? So the preference is to have as many academic as possible, so up to 3 academic. But if you cannot get complete academic references and you need some professional references, then it's up to you to try and balance between taking someone who can comment on your most up-to-date experience versus references which are particularly related to the program. And it's very hard to advise without details here.
Yeah. So there's some questions about the specific degrees and courses. So just to clarify one bit, a master's is not a requirement. Exactly, we call it a first class or strong upper second class undergraduate degree with honors. This can be also a bachelor's. From experience, most of the admitted students have potentially masters, but it's not a requirement. There's a similar question about exact degrees or grades from international degrees. It's very hard to comment on this on the fly because there's equivalence of definitions that the university is using. So we'd encourage you to look for this specific guidance on this material. I don't want to say something that could be slightly off here because this varies very much country by country.
Yeah. So in terms of like a student's question on like, do they need to develop their own models in the thesis doing Intelligent Earth, or they can use the existing machine learning model? Yeah, so basically you will see a full spectrum of like a very hardcore machine learning and very hardcore like environmental science. We're trying to go interdisciplinary, so that we're trying to go between. So the exact point where you want to be at, that's completely up to you, and it usually depends on your personal interests and past experiences. So if you want to develop new like machine learning scheme for your thesis, that will be more focused on core AI scheme, which we really are looking forward to. But also if you want to apply and work on more interesting like climate-based or like environmental science-based problems, that's absolutely fine as well. We will try to support both. And there's also a related question on how strong a background in coding needed. Well, we do apply lots of like ramp up and introductory courses for those who don't have a strong coding background. So that should be fine. You will learn coding, although a little bit steep learning curve for you, but that's fine. I'm sure you will be able to catch up. Yeah.
There's a good question, and that's a slightly tricky one, and that's partly because we're a startup and busy, and that's so what's the best way to reach out to our current cohort of students? So two things to be said about that. So first of all, we have a Q&A session coming up right afterwards in breakout groups with existing students working in the remit of Intelligent Earth. Unfortunately, we had a clash with the training program due to the exciting sprint we organized today, so that our current cohort of students can't really join today. But you can obviously also reach out to them. Their profiles will appear on our webpage very soon. We just have been really busy with the training program, so we haven't set this up yet, but there's something that will come soon. And generally, it's always okay to contact students. They may not respond, but I think generally people are very open to be speaking to other to interested applicants.
I can see another question about supervisors. The question from Frank says, just want to confirm, do we have to mention the professor's name in the application form? How many should we include? And is it really necessary to contact the professor in advance? So I emphasize, no, you do not have to mention a professor's name on the application form. And so you don't need to include any, and it is not necessary to contact anyone in advance. But we would recommend that you check out the available supervisors, because if you have a very particular area of research you would like to work in, and we don't have someone at Oxford in the program who does that area of research, we won't be able to support you in your research. So it's helpful for you to check that there's, people who you'd like to work with. And if there's really just one person who you're very set on working with, then you could reach out to them and check they're accepting students or so on, again, to mitigate the risk of not having someone who matches your research interests. But in general, we have so many supervisors, 80 supervisors, more than 80 supervisors signed up. And we have a very wide range of areas that we cover, that we don't really anticipate there being many people for whom they won't find someone who they'd be interested in working with. Yeah, I hope that clarifies things. If you want to add anything, Philip or Tim.
Yeah, it's a fine line. It's one thing we can't guarantee always the match with the supervisor, but there's just so many options. And even if you think you exactly know what you want to do, we see this with our current cohort. They're saying, oh, we had this course. it's so many interesting things. I might even change my mind, and that's totally okay. So it's really, we want to inspire you in the first terms to really pick what you really want to work on. So it's okay to have a good opinion what you want to do, but you might change your mind. There's a few questions about funding. I don't think we want to go into now detailed numbers. I don't think that's super helpful. We wish student funding would be more generous. It is not, you won't be rich and you don't do a PhD because you want to be rich at least while you do it. But people can normally live quite well from it. And I think it covers all the costs and expenses. But I think it's no big point now to go into details. The numbers sound lower than they are because it's a tax-free stipend. So it sounds like a low number, but it's actually not as low as it sounds. Having said that, we wouldn't mind it to be higher, which is beyond our control, sadly. So I think we touched on this. I'm just trying to pick, we still have quite a few open questions. I'm slightly aware that for technical reasons, we will have to close the webinar when we go into the Q&A with existing students, which means that at that point also the Q&A won't be accessible to you. So that's why I think we let us spend a few more minutes to fish out Hannah, Tim, and myself. Give us just a moment. If there's something urgent that we really haven't touched on, we don't want to miss. Otherwise, you can obviously get back to us and ask us. So you contact us primarily, please, through the contact email address, which is given on our web pages. It's a bit easier than emailing us all personally because we get quite a lot of emails and we'd rather want to answer them. Let me skim it myself and please come in, Hannah, and tell me if there's anything. So in terms of preparation studies, people ask, should you do pre-form? So my personal answer is with students, I mean, once you're admitted in the program, you've demonstrated you're quantitative and you're definitely in the remit and bring the right background. When people ask me personally what they should do for preparing for a program, I would normally say go on a holiday. We don't want you to just work all the way up. You will be very busy while you're here. Having said that, we will send to admitted candidates some pre-reading that they may want to do. And in particular, there's some pre-reading around maths and linear algebra that students who haven't covered this much in the program might find quite useful because it allows them really to pick up right away. But yes, we don't expect people to do prep courses or anything. You should learn everything on the program, but it doesn't do harm to look a little bit at it. But
there's a couple of questions about partners. We could take those?
Yes, please.
Can you talk a bit more about how collaborations with various partner organizations are structured from Josh? And then there was another one further down about if there might be more partners in the future.
Yep.
And we've just had our first partner day that Philip mentioned at the start. And so this was an opportunity for our current cohort to see the range of partners who they could work with. And this is... and I think there is the opportunity for more partners to join in the future. So we do require something from our partners. We need to have a formalized arrangement because we expect something from them if they sign up to be a partner. We expect them to be engaged in the project and in supervising the students and so on. And so it is a commitment on their side in addition to the benefit they get then of being involved in the program. But so we do formalize these arrangements. But that doesn't mean that we wouldn't anticipate having more partners in the future. But then the question was how is it arranged? It's quite organic. So just in the same way that students are currently discussing with their supervisors or discussing with potential supervisors, potential projects and who they'd like to work with and building their supervisory team, bringing in a partner is another part of this process. So that in the end, we end up with a really bespoke supervisory team where the partner's bringing something complementary and the two supervisors are there as well.
Yeah, and I should say this will also be This will vary individually, project by project. There's partners that will be really engaged on, say, maybe a weekly basis and as part of a supervisory team, and they will join in a hybrid way, and this will be very close, and that's okay. And there will be some partners where the engagement is maybe less intense throughout, but then primarily also focus on this secondment, and that's okay too. Also, the secondment could be totally aligned with someone's project and could be just exactly a continuation in a bit of the work they do in a non-academic research environment, but it could also be really orthogonal and quite different. And we had students before who just went to industry, did something totally different, wrote a paper with them. It doesn't necessarily even go in their PhD thesis, but it's part of the experience, and it becomes part of their CV. So it's very, very flexible.
Again, I got a few questions on like the abilities before like coming to like the math or coding ability. Again, this is really like we appreciate that we got a fantastic cohort from really diverse background. So that the idea that we're trying to provide a ramp up for every student, join our cohort, to join our program, so that you will start to learn, and we will send some pre-readings before you come to Oxford, and drop-in sessions to help you out, catch up on all the math. So the idea is that don't worry if you don't have a strong math background right now. The idea that we will provide sufficient training for you to catch up and use math as a strong tool in your future research as well. So don't worry about that.
There's a question that I like, so I'll pick it up really quick. Is it encouraged to build a startup in parallel to the DPhil? Yes, in principle, obviously you still have to really do the DPhil, but we will set up a dedicated course in entrepreneurship and innovation. And we're trying to think of creative ways to make this possible without eating too much into your time of the PhD or DPhil. And so the DPhil is full-time. You will need the energy, but we will try to support you, and we'll pay people up, hopefully up with mentors, and give you dedicated training. So it's exactly one outcome we can see, that quite a few of the cohort come up with great ideas and might start their own businesses. Having said that, you still have to do the work for the PhD, and actually you should use the opportunity, because it's an extremely rewarding part of life. So just seeing it as a side distraction is not normally a good idea. I'm a bit aware of time, so let's see if there's anything urgent left. It's great, but we're not answering faster than you type, unfortunately. So we're not beating it all, but we've answered a lot of questions. Hannah, Tim, do you see anything burning before we open the breakout rooms for students?
No.
No, I think we've covered a lot, and I do encourage you to look on the application webpage that I highlighted, and quite a lot of the details are available on that webpage, so you can check there.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on to the breakout sessions now with students. I will post a link in the chat now, which everyone should be able to see. And please just click the link and join that meeting room. You can't do breakout rooms in a Zoom webinar, so unfortunately we can't do this here. So you have to join there. You will have to wait a little bit there, because we need to swap over ourselves as well. And then we will open the room and we'll open the breakout rooms. So please be patient once you join the other meeting, and we will see you on the other side and open the breakout rooms. So please click the link now, and then hopefully you'll be admitted very soon. I should say this was very constructive. We answered, I think in writing alone, 66 questions or so, and many in person. So we answered probably way above 100 questions, which is brilliant. So I see the numbers dropping, and as soon as we drop sort of enough, then we can just switch over. I just don't want for people to miss clicking the link. So if you haven't clicked the link in the chat, this is your last chance to do it, so that you can head over to the breakout session with existing students. Okay, well, thank you very much, Hannah. You can join us, but you probably don't need to, because we'll literally just hand over to the students, and I'll head now to the other room. And thanks, Tim.